The rain fell in quiet sheets over the city, washing the streets in a glossy reflection of neon lights. Officer Elena walked her usual patrol route, her boots splashing softly in shallow puddles. It was late, almost the kind of hour when the world seemed to forget itself, when the hurried steps of the day slowed, leaving only silence and solitude. And then she saw her. A woman sitting on a worn wooden bench, shoulders hunched, drenched despite the thin jacket she wore. Her hair clung to her face, and her hands trembled slightly as she clutched a paper cup, the steam rising into the cold night air. Elena's first instinct was professional caution. There was always the possibility of danger, of trouble, but there was something in the woman's posture that stopped her cold. Not fear, not anger, just quiet despair. Elena slowed her steps, unsure why her heart clenched. She knelt slightly beside the bench, keeping her voice low and calm. "Are you okay?" she asked, her words almost swallowed by the rain. The woman looked up, startled, her eyes wide and glimmering with unshed tears. For a moment, she said nothing, as if deciding whether this stranger was a threat or a lifeline. And then her lips trembled. I don't know," she whispered. Elena felt an unexpected pull, a deep empathy that bypassed protocol and duty. She removed her own coat and draped it over the woman's shivering shoulders. "Here," she said gently. "It's cold out. You shouldn't be sitting here alone." The woman hesitated, but something in Elena's presence, a quiet patience, a refusal to judge, made her nod. Her hands, pale and fragile, clutched the coat as if holding onto a lifeline. "Thank you," she murmured, voice barely audible over the rain. Elena stayed for a moment longer, offering no other words, just a presence. In that silence, something shifted. The woman's shoulders relaxed, ever so slightly. Elena realized that sometimes, kindness didn't need to be loud or heroic. It could be as simple as standing beside someone when the world had turned away. "Do you want to talk?" Elena asked, careful not to push, letting the woman feel in control. The woman shook her head, then paused. Her eyes, dark and haunted, met Elena's. "I don't even know your name," she said, almost shyly. "Officer Elena," she replied. "And you?" "Anna," came the fragile answer. Anna. The name seemed to echo softly in Elena's mind, like the beginning of a story she didn't want to end. The rain continued to fall, but for the first time that night, it felt less like a curtain separating Anna from the world and more like a gentle rhythm, a shared heartbeat. Elena realized, with a startling clarity, that she couldn't just leave Anna there. She couldn't. Something about this encounter, so sudden, so unplanned, had rooted itself deep in her chest. Tonight wasn't just another patrol. Tonight was a beginning, and Elena, who had always prided herself on keeping her distance, knew one truth she hadn't expected. Some people, some moments, demanded that you stay. The small apartment was dimly lit, the faint glow of a single lamp barely reaching the corners where shadows clung. Elena stepped inside, her coat still damp from the rain, and looked around. The room was cluttered, but not in the chaotic way of a careless person. It spoke of someone overwhelmed, someone trying to keep life together but failing under the weight of it. Anna stood near the window, staring out as raindrops traced patterns down the glass. She didn't speak, didn't move to greet Elena, only allowed the warmth of the coat Elena had given her to seep into her shoulders. The silence between them was heavy, but Elena didn't break it. She knew sometimes words were more dangerous than kindness, sometimes presence alone was enough. Finally, Anna turned, her eyes shadowed with fatigue and quiet despair. "I don't know why you're here," she said, voice trembling. I don't even know you." Elena took a cautious step closer. "I saw you outside. You looked cold, alone. And I just thought you shouldn't have to be alone right now." Her voice was gentle, careful not to impose, only to offer. Anna looked away, biting her lip as if the very act of trusting might shatter her. "You don't understand," she whispered. "My life, it's a mess. Everything I touch falls apart. I don't even know if anyone would care if I just disappeared." Elena's heart ached at the raw honesty in Anna's words. She moved slightly closer, keeping her distance enough to let Anna breathe but close enough to offer quiet support. "I care," Elena said simply. "And even if no one else does, I do." For a long moment, Anna's gaze dropped to the floor, and Elena thought she might turn away entirely. But then, Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Anna stepped forward. She sank into a chair, finally letting herself collapse into vulnerability. Elena stayed near, letting her adjust, letting her be human, letting her be broken without shame. They talked then. Not about solutions, not about fixing anything. Anna spoke of her losses, of the loneliness that wrapped itself around her every night, of fear that trust would always lead to heartbreak. Elena listened, her presence steady, offering warmth through more than words. Occasionally, she would hand Anna a cup of tea, or quietly move closer when Anna shivered. She said nothing grand, nothing heroic, she simply stayed. And slowly, Anna's walls began to crumble. She realized that perhaps someone could see her, not as a burden, not as a case file, not as a problem to solve, but as a person who deserved care. Elena didn't ask for explanations, didn't judge. She only offered her time, her attention, her heart. By the time the rain eased outside, Anna was calmer, though her eyes still held the memory of fear and pain. And Elena, watching her, realized something profound. Helping someone wasn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it was about showing up, over and over, and allowing yourself to care. Anna looked up at her then, a faint, tentative smile touching her lips. "Thank you," she said, voice barely above a whisper. Elena nodded, letting the words settle. "You don't have to thank me," she said. I couldn't leave you there." And in that simple exchange, a fragile bond was born, one that neither of them yet fully understood, but both would come to rely on. Morning sunlight filtered through the cafe's tall windows, painting the worn wooden tables with soft golden light. Elena and Anna sat across from each other, the clink of coffee cups and the low murmur of other patrons wrapping them in a quiet cocoon. It had become a small ritual. Elena would check on Anna after her shifts, and Anna, slowly learning to trust, would meet her there, letting the outside world wait for a little while. Anna stirred her latte absent-mindedly, her fingers tracing the rim of the cup as if grounding herself in reality. "You know," she said softly, glancing up at Elena, "I wasn't sure I could ever feel safe again." Elena's gaze softened. "Safe from what?" she asked, though she already understood more than Anna realized. Safe from pain, from betrayal, from the loneliness that had wrapped itself around her like a second skin. From people, Anna admitted, her voice almost a whisper. From trusting someone, letting them see you, and then, being left alone again. She paused, eyes glistening. "I didn't think someone could just stay." Elena reached across the table, her hand hovering for a moment before gently covering Anna's. "I'm here," she said simply. "I'm not going anywhere." Anna's lips curved in a small, tentative smile. It wasn't a full smile, but it was something she hadn't done in a long time, something fragile and real. And in that moment, Elena realized that their connection was no longer about duty or circumstance. It was something deeper, something neither of them could have predicted. As the mornings passed, their conversations grew longer, more intimate. Elena shared stories of her work, how she sometimes felt like she carried the weight of the world on her shoulders, the quiet moments when the city's pain seeped into her own soul. Anna, in turn, began to reveal the fragments of her life she had kept hidden, the dreams she had buried, the fears that had shaped her. Laughter began to thread itself between them, tentative at first, but gradually bolder, more genuine. It wasn't just companionship that was forming, it was trust. And with trust came vulnerability, a willingness to be seen in ways neither of them had anticipated. Elena noticed the way Anna's eyes lit up when she laughed, how her voice softened when she felt understood. Anna noticed how Elena's stern exterior softened around her, how she allowed small moments of tenderness without fear of judgment. One rainy afternoon, as the city shimmered under wet streets and neon reflections, Anna spoke quietly, almost afraid to break the fragile spell. I don't know how to say this, but you've changed something in me. I don't feel as alone as I did before." Elena squeezed her hand gently. "You're not alone, Anna. And you never will be, as long as I'm here." For the first time in a long while, Anna let herself believe it. She let herself imagine a world where someone could care so deeply without asking for anything in return. And Elena, watching her, felt a quiet truth settle in her chest. Some bonds are not born of circumstance but of choice, and choosing to care is an act of courage in itself. The rain continued outside, but inside, They had created their own small world, warm and bright, where fear and pain could soften under the gentle touch of understanding. And in that shared space, something extraordinary began to bloom, a bond neither had expected, yet both had been silently waiting for. The call came just as the evening shadows began to stretch across the city streets. Anna's phone vibrated insistently, and when she answered, her face went pale. Her sister, whom she hadn't spoken to in years, had been hospitalized after a sudden accident. The hospital's name was barely audible through her trembling voice, and for a moment, Anna froze, panic gripping her chest. Elena, noticing the change immediately, leaned closer. "Anna, what is it?" she asked, her voice calm but urgent. Anna tried to speak but could only shake her head, tears welling in her eyes. It's my sister," Anna stammered. She's in the hospital. I don't know what to do." Elena's mind raced for solutions, but more importantly, it understood what Anna needed right now: presence, support, and someone who wouldn't let her crumble alone. "Come with me," Elena said firmly. "I'll take you there. You won't be alone." Anna hesitated. "But, what if I'm in the way? You have work, duty." Elena shook her head. "This isn't about duty. It's about being there when it matters. Let me help." And so, without another word, they left together. The rain had returned, tapping a rhythmic pattern against the car windows as if the city itself was mourning and hoping simultaneously. Anna gripped her coat nervously, silent except for the occasional choked breath, while Elena drove steadily, her eyes sharp and attentive but her hand gentle when it brushed Anna's shoulder. At the hospital, chaos reigned in the emergency wing, nurses rushing, alarms softly beeping, the low hum of anxious voices. Anna's fear threatened to overwhelm her, but Elena stayed close, guiding her through the crowded corridors with quiet confidence. "You're safe," she whispered. "We'll get through this together." Hours passed. Anna sat beside her sister's bed, holding her hand, tears flowing freely now, while Elena remained a silent guardian, ensuring she had space to grieve, to hope, to simply be human. She made calls, coordinated with doctors, offered blankets, and quietly handled everything Anna couldn't manage in her panic. Each action was simple, small, but together they formed a shield of care around Anna. Finally, the doctor emerged, a tired but reassuring smile on his face. "She's stable now," he said. Relief washed over Anna like a tidal wave. She sank into Elena's side, trembling, and for the first time in days, let herself exhale fully. Elena wrapped an arm around her, holding her close. "See," she said softly, "you're not alone." Anna looked up at her, eyes glistening with gratitude and something deeper, an unspoken recognition of the selfless devotion she had just experienced. In that moment, she understood what it truly meant to be cared for without condition, without expectation. It was humbling, it was transformative, and it changed something in her heart forever. That night, as they left the hospital under a sky washed clean by rain, Anna leaned against Elena, feeling a profound sense of safety she had not known in years. She realized, with quiet awe, that kindness, real, unwavering kindness, could be more powerful than fear, more healing than time, and more enduring than pain. Elena, sensing the shift, smiled softly. She had given something without asking, without needing recognition, and in doing so, had illuminated a path through Anna's darkest hours, a path neither of them would ever forget. The park was quiet that evening, bathed in the soft glow of a golden sunset. Leaves whispered in the gentle breeze, and the city beyond felt miles away, as though this small world had been created just for them. Anna and Elena walked side by side, their steps slow and unhurried, the weight of recent events settling into a comfortable silence between them. Anna stopped at a bench overlooking the pond, the water reflecting the colors of the fading sky. She sat down, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. The air was heavy with unspoken emotions, the kind that words often fail to capture. Finally, Anna turned toward Elena, her eyes bright yet tender, brimming with a mix of gratitude and newfound hope. I don't know how to say this," she began, voice trembling slightly. "But you've changed my life. The way you've stayed, the way you've cared, it's more than I ever thought someone could do for me." Elena knelt beside the bench, her gaze steady and warm. "You don't have to say anything," she replied softly. "I didn't do it for thanks. I just couldn't let you face the world alone." Anna took a deep breath, her fingers brushing against Elena's. But you stayed anyway. Even when it was hard, even when it wasn't easy, you stayed. Her voice broke slightly, and tears rolled down her cheeks. I've never felt that before. Never truly known someone would choose me, just as I am. Elena reached out, gently tucking a wet strand of hair behind Anna's ear. We all deserve someone who sees us, she said, her voice a whisper of sincerity. Sometimes we just have to let ourselves be seen. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other, the kind of silence that carries a lifetime of unspoken understanding. Then, slowly, Anna leaned into Elena, resting her head on her shoulder. Elena wrapped an arm around her, holding her close, feeling the weight of all the fear, pain, and loneliness melt away. In that embrace, there was no judgment, no expectation, only the quiet, powerful affirmation that they were no longer alone. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of rose and amber, Anna finally whispered, I think I can start again. Not alone, not like before. Elena smiled, her own chest swelling with emotion. And you never will be, she replied. Not while I'm here. The city's lights began to twinkle in the distance, but in that small park, there was only warmth, trust, and the fragile beauty of human connection. Anna realized, with a clarity she hadn't felt in years, that love, simple, selfless, unwavering love, could heal wounds that seemed permanent. Elena realized, in turn, that opening her heart had brought a joy and purpose she hadn't expected to find on a routine patrol. Together, they stood, hand in hand, watching the world awaken to twilight. And though neither knew exactly what the future held, they understood one undeniable truth. Sometimes, it takes only one act of compassion to illuminate a life, and sometimes, it takes one brave heart to show another that hope, love, and humanity are always worth believing in. The night descended softly, but inside both of them, a light burned, steady, warm, and unshakable, a light born from care, courage, and the quiet power of choosing to stay.